Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. Today, I thought we could talk about the day the music died, as it's come to be known, which was February 3rd of 1959. It's kind of a sloppy looking nine. That's better. This is the day of a plane crash that killed three major musical artists in one crash. And later, in 1971, Don McLean wrote a song called American Pie that a lot of you may know because it became kind of viral. Probably, I don't know, what was it, 5 years ago, when everybody was doing like these big giant videos singing American Pie, kind of walking through their towns and stuff. But that song is about the day the music died, which was a real event on February 3rd of 1959. So I did a little research today and tried to dig up some, things I could show you that are in relation to the day the music died. I'm not an expert. I'm not a historian or a music expert, but I know a little something about this, and it's like I've known stuff and then forgot it and then reminded myself. So I just thought we'll talk about that a little bit. So, on right around this time of February 3rd, the band whose lead singer, Buddy Holly had previously been with the Crickets. And so a lot of people know Buddy Holly and the Crickets. But like this album, I think was their first album from 1957. But by the time of 1959, he had actually left the Crickets and gone out on as sort of a solo artist, but he had a band with him. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So these guys weren't there that day. It was Buddy Holly. And if you don't know who Buddy Holly is, he was a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and we'll talk about how young he was later, but in his rather short career, he had a ton of hit songs that I don't know actually if they became hits after his death and people just started listening to them more, or if they were, I know he had some hits while he was alive. He was already doing really well. But I don't know if some of these became more immortalized. I'm not sure about. But like this album, which is his 1957 Crickets, like it doesn't even say Buddy Holly and the Crickets. This was before that. This album has Oh Boy, which if you don't know these songs, you might look them up because they're really good. Buddy Holly. Not Fade Away, Maybe Baby, which Buddy Holly co-wrote. That'll Be the Day, which Buddy Holly co-wrote. I'm Looking for Someone to Love. He wrote that. Co-wrote that. But like, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. Anyway, I'm sure, set that down there, that there are probably a lot of these songs that you know, but if you don't, definitely look up Buddy Holly. Like this one has Peggy Sue, True Love Ways, It Doesn't Matter Anymore. And then some of these are cover songs, but like he wrote True Love Ways. That's a great song. Anyway, all that to say, this is who Buddy Holly was. And he was a big star already. Okay, so Buddy Holly is on tour, and it's called the Winter Dance. Hold on, let me think on that for a second. Winter Dance Party. Actually, I have a picture, but so the tour was called the Winter Dance Party, and it was a little bit. The tour wasn't designed great in that they were traveling by bus, him and the other acts, who I'll talk about in a second. They were traveling by bus, and they were kind of crisscrossing. Instead of going in a very methodical way from city to city, it sort of would go all over the map. And it was in the dead of winter. I mean, we're talking February in the northern parts of the United States. So, and it was an extremely cold and snowy winter, that winter, by the way. So anyway, Buddy Holly is now not with the Crickets, but he's with his traveling band, which included Tommy Allsup, Waylon Jennings, and Carl Bunch. So Tommy Allsup was a guitarist, and Buddy Holly played guitar, and Tommy Allsup. Waylon Jennings was the bass player, and, well, I don't know. I was going to say he also sang backup, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know. And then Carl Bunch was the drummer for the band. So that's Buddy Holly's band. And they were touring with Ritchie Valens, who actually came up in the video I did the other day about my cassette tapes. And I had this cassette tape. This is not actually Ritchie Valens. This is Lou Diamond Phillips playing Ritchie Valens. But this is a movie they made during the 80s. I think the 80s, maybe early 90s, but I think it's the 80s, called La Bamba. And it was the Ritchie Valens story. And they had different artists like Los Lobos, Bo Diddley, Brian Setzer, Marshall Crenshaw playing the music for the soundtrack for La Bamba. But Ritchie Valens in real life had a few hits. And by the way, he was very young, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But so he had the song La Bamba, which a lot of you may know. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go, little darling. And Donna, that goes, oh, Donna. So if you're not familiar with those songs, they're good ones. You might look them up. Okay, so Ritchie Valens is traveling as a kind of warm-up act for Buddy Holly. And a man named J.P. Richardson, who went by the name the Big Bopper, was also traveling with the band. So as the band is traveling around in this bus through the very cold weather, it became intolerable, like very, very miserable. To the point where on February, I think it was February 2nd, it was like before this, Carl Bunch got frostbite on his feet and he left. He went home. So he was not there on the night of February 3rd. So February 3rd comes around and these guys all play at, I'm trying to remember the name of the place. It was the Surf Ballroom. Yeah, it was the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa. Let's write that down before I forget. The Surf. I'm going to make that a capital. Ballroom. Oops. In Clear Lake, Iowa. And so they play a show that night. And then I think the next day, they were supposed to be in Fargo, North Dakota. So I did bring my map out here. Hold on, let me just, I thought I marked the page. Here it is. Okay. So they're in Iowa, and you know, the biggest city in Iowa here, Des Moines. But they were up here in Clear Lake. And North Dakota's out here. My finger won't even go there. Let's see. So they're up here in the middle of the state. Hold on. Let's just see if we can find it. Here we go. Okay. They're right around here. Straight up from, so they were like right around here. And they have to go up to Fargo. Now, with my fingers here, that doesn't look that far, but that's a long way, and you're heading even more north, and it was bitter cold. So Buddy Holly had already had some hits and had some money. Oops. Sorry, I set that map down. So he chartered a small plane. Well, the plane he could find could only hold 3 people. So he was going to take his band, Buddy, Tommy, and Waylon. I think that was like what Buddy was thinking, or maybe we don't. I don't know if we really know what he was thinking. He just knew he could go, and 2 other people could go. So, the Big Bopper had come down with the flu. He was really sick. So Waylon Jennings, who was planned to go on, these 3 were going to go on the plane. Waylon Jennings said, I'll switch places with you. You can have my spot on the airplane and I'll go on the bus, which was pretty cool of Waylon. And then Ritchie Valens and Tommy Alsop. Now, I don't know why they do this unless there was just like an open spot. You know what I mean? Like if Buddy had said, no, my band's going, I'm not sure why they do this. So I think maybe Buddy just said, okay, we got room for 2 more. So Tommy and Ritchie Valens did a coin toss, and Ritchie ended up winning that coin toss. And at that time, apparently Ritchie Valens said, this is the first time I've ever won anything in my whole life, which is kind of sad. So it ends up Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper are on the airplane. And the pilot, whose name was Roger Peterson. So these 4 people, and Waylon Jennings and Tommy Alsop, were not on the plane. And Carl Bunch had already gone home with frostbite. Waylon Jennings gave up his seat to the Big Bopper, and Tommy Alsop lost the coin toss to Ritchie Valens. So they take off from Clear Lake, Iowa, and the weather was pretty bad, apparently. And I think within moments of takeoff, the plane went out of control and crashed. And all of these people died. Everybody on board died in the plane crash. So that's sad. So that is what happened. Now, going back to these guys, Buddy Holly had all those hits I showed you earlier, and he wrote, a ton of music. And at the time of his, hold on, I'm looking for my pen. Where'd my pen go? Hold on. Not that pen. Okay. At the time of Buddy Holly's death, he was only 22 years old. And he had already had, like I showed you with those albums, a ton of hits. That's so crazy. He was so young. And Ritchie Valens was only, you guys aren't going to believe this is so sad, 17 years old. And the Big Bopper was 28 years old. So they were all just like little young. I don't know about the pilot. I'm not sure about him at all. So they were like just so young when this all happened. Okay, so I did pull out this Ultimate Stars guitars just to show you. Oops. This, well, first of all, here's a picture of Buddy Holly. But these are the two guys from the Crickets. So they weren't with him that night. But there's Buddy. And here is the winter dance party poster. It was from a different night, I think, but it shows you Buddy Holly. See, this says in the Crickets, but at the time of the crash, he was not with the Crickets. So, and I don't think Dion and the Belmonts, but the Big Bopper, he sang Chantilly's, and Ritchie Valens were with him. So it shows that, you know, I remember from when I looked through this before, whoops, somewhere in here was Waylon Jennings too. Hold on, maybe. Sorry, I can't put this in the camera. Well, maybe I can if I put it like this. Let's see. A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I. I have to sing the alphabet. 148. Okay, hold on. You know, Waylon Jennings has come up so many times lately. He came up in the video I did on We Are the World. By the way, there is a new documentary on Netflix about We Are the World. It is good. I really enjoyed it. But Waylon Jennings got a little like annoyed during the We Are the World, and he stormed out and wasn't actually end up being part of it. Anyway, here he is playing his guitar. And then here he is older. Waylon Jennings ended up being part of that outlaw country. And he sang the theme to the Dukes of Hazzard. He actually narrated the Dukes of Hazzard too. And he hung out with like Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash. In fact, Waylon and Willie sang a duet that you might know called Mama, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. So anyway, but Waylon wasn't on the plane because he gave up his seat to the Big Bopper. Okay. I also found this, which this bugged me because this book, it's kind of not that good, I think, but it's called The Rock and Roll Years. And what it seems to be, oops, I saved a page, is articles. Like it's supposed to be actual articles, I think, from each year. Let's see if I can show you. Each year and each day and each year. And they're like news articles. And I'm not sure if they're supposed to be real. I haven't really read through it. But they aren't very good. So I looked up 1959. January. Okay, here's February of 1959. They don't have anything about it. Like, what? I mean, there's nothing here about. They have Elvis gets stung by Frankfurt Fräulein. America's Top DJ, that's Dick Clark. Stagger Lee, 26-year-old black singer Lloyd Price, has leapt to #1 stateside. And then, but they have nothing about the plane crash. How weird is that? But I found this article from April of 1959, and it's a picture of Buddy Holly. And it says, recorded only weeks before his death, It Doesn't Matter Anymore has vaulted the late Buddy Holly to #1. That's why I was wondering how many of his songs were #1 before his death. I should have looked that up. Emphasizing what a truly great artist we have lost. Holly's performance of the Paul Anka song, set in a lush string arrangement, obviously heralded a new chapter in the singer's development. A tribute disc meaning record album, dedicated to the stars who died in the tragic plane crash, has appeared in the U.S. Top 20. In 3 stars, Tommy D discusses all 3 individually, concluding, "Gee, we're gonna miss you. Everybody sends their love." Meanwhile, the Crickets, from whom Holly split last year, have regrouped. Drummer Jerry Allison and bassist Joe Malden have been joined by guitarist Sonny Curtis and vocalist Earl Sinks. Their first release, Love Made a Fool of You, written by Holly, is currently climbing the NME Top 30. But anyway, I just thought it was weird that this book didn't have a headline about the actual crash. So, I don't know. Okay. All right, let's see, what else did I read about this? Here's a weird one. Here's a weird thing that I hadn't heard until I started researching this. So apparently in later years, and I mean 2007, J.P. Richardson's son, who I believe was also named J.P. Richardson, he had his dad, the Big Bopper, exhumed. And the reason is that apparently the Big Bopper's body was found 40 feet or something like that. I think it was 40 feet from the crash site. And I read 2 different things. A gun was found either, I read, in a field nearby, a farmer's field, or within the wreckage. So I don't know which is true. That was registered to Buddy Holly. So these conspiracy theories started going around that maybe Buddy Holly had either intentionally shot the pilot or accidentally. I don't know why I shot the pilot. I don't know why they say that. And then the Big Bopper was trying to go walk away from the crash to get help. And then maybe he was then shot. I don't know why. I couldn't find out what the conspiracy actually was. But so they were exhuming his body to see if he had any gunshots. And the what do you call it? Coroner, is that way? Anyway, who, by the way, was a guy who worked at that outside of Knoxville at the University of Tennessee. They have a thing called the Body Farm, where you can donate your body to science, and then they, send in, they can use it for study of how bodies decay in the wild, Anyway, it's kind of interesting. I listened to a podcast about it one time. It's kind of interesting. But anyway, so the guy who's the head of that department is the person who did the, looked at Big Bopper's body, and he said, nah, he had everything signs that he was just crushed in the plane accident. He had broken hips, broken arms, broken everything, and had probably just been thrown from the plane. So I think that ended that kind of odd theory. So that is the story. So then, like I said, later, Don McLean in 1970s wrote the song American Pie. And in the song, it sings about the day the music died. And that is why it's kind of now known as the day the music died. Because these 3 greats died during that. And look how young they were. It's just wild. Let me think. I can't think anything else about this. Well, if you guys have any... Oh, I remember one thing. Okay. So, I don't know why they said this to each other, but I heard that there was a rumor, so this, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but that Buddy Holly had planned the seat for Waylon Jennings, but Waylon Jennings gave it up. And I don't know why Buddy Holly would say this, but it was a joke. He jokingly said to Waylon Jennings, "Well, I hope your bus freezes up," or something like that. And Waylon Jennings said back, "Well, I hope your plane crashes." So that's sad. But, they were just goofing with each other from all I could understand. But, sort of oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. What else? I'm trying to think if there don't think so. I hope I didn't leave anything out. Sometimes when I, go kind of study something and then come back here to tell you guys about it, it's like my brain can't remember what I've said out loud or what I've just read. But yeah, so these 4 guys were in the airplane, and I think as soon as they took off, they basically crashed. So there you go. And then I think Tommy also, he was a studio guitarist and he kept playing guitar. Carl Bunch, you know what? I don't know if I read what happened to him after, but he was a drummer. And then Waylon Jennings, of course, kept on keeping on. All right. Well, please, let me know if you have any other stories or thoughts or I don't know, anything, whatever, in the comments. So thanks for watching, guys.